Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Hardcore Survival Guide. This is episode 2 and today we are going to get started on a full enchantment setup. Hopefully this should be nice and easy to do with our villagers in tow because the villagers are kind of OP as we discovered the other day. First thing we need to do is get hold of, I guess, a full bookshelf. So we will need to start growing some of this sugarcane and seeing if there's any more around the perimeter here. Since we're farming trees up here, we'll start a little sugarcane farm up here. It doesn't need to be anything huge for now because we won't actually be getting the majority of our bookshelves from killing cows and farming sugarcane. We're actually going to be getting them from the librarians themselves, along with some enchanted books. But in the meantime, we do need one bookshelf in order to get ourselves a lectern, because lecterns require you to make a bookshelf and then some slabs to go around that. There we go, that's a lectern all crafted up. Let's drop this in the center of the village and see if any librarians come to hang out here, because I think one of the things I'm going to try and do nice and early here is get hold of a fortune book, but we also need to get a bookshelf trade on the go. So if we need to make a couple of lecterns, that'll be easy once we have a bookshelf set up here. We just got to wait for a librarian to show up, and hopefully there are enough villagers still wandering around here unemployed that we should have a librarian before long. Here's one guy who I think is trying to pathfind out of here but can't leave his house because of the carpet. The AI of these things is a little bit hilarious at times, but yeah, they couldn't get around the carpet. But I think he is actually going to wander over here and become our librarian. Man, Villagers AI is fun sometimes. Alright, what have you got, my friend? Okay, he has a bookshelf trade. Now, this is kind of important because librarians can have a couple of different combinations of trades in the early stages here, and if we get one that has, oh, that's a worthwhile enchanted book, but I think we're going to leave it. I'm not certain if you can get a combination that has both a book trade and a bookshelf. You can. In this case, we got channeling. So we're going to keep re-rolling this until we hopefully get a fortune book trade, or I just get bored and decide we should go with the bookshelf. At this point, any fortune book would do. It doesn't matter if it's fortune 1, 2, or 3, because we will need to get an anvil so that we can combine the book and some sort of tool anyway. Let's see what you've got now. Respiration 3. Okay, not too bad. Okay, at last we have the ideal librarian. Kind of. It's a pretty expensive trade, but we not only have a bookshelf trade, we also have fortune 3 for 45 emeralds. I'm going to buy a bookshelf from him to lock in the trade, and we're going to use that bookshelf trade to level this guy up a little bit, because the fortune trade is going to be a little bit expensive. But of course, if we want to, we can place a bookshelf, break it down into 3 books, and now we have the book part of that trade all covered, and it's just a matter of trading with Fletchers until we can get hold of enough emeralds. So with the next workday started, I can finally trade a few more emeralds with this Fletcher. We are over a stack of emeralds at this point. Our friend the librarian has come to work, and we can buy our first Fortune 3 book. We are on day 7 of this world. So far, we are doing phenomenally well, and we can buy a few more bookshelves for our collection. We're potentially going to be turning that into a full enchanting setup later in this episode. We have a couple of diamonds from the blacksmith that we could use that for. We do need a bit more obsidian though. But we are going to put the enchanting setup and actually the fortune book on hold for now, because the next thing we need is a whole bunch more iron. Of course, the iron that we've had so far has been useful for making tools, but we need to make an anvil so we can combine that fortune 3 book with a useful tool. We could easily make a diamond pickaxe out of what we've got here, but without an anvil we're not going to be able to combine it with fortune. And despite what a lot of people think, the blacksmith in town does not have an anvil at the front. It has a grindstone for the weaponsmith. So I'm going to smelt a bunch of iron in the furnace out of the front of his shop. We should have like 10 iron so far, and we need 3 blocks and 4 ingots, which means probably a total of, let me do the maths, 31 iron ingots. So we are, you know, a good third of the way there already. And it looks like some more iron is currently farming itself, because the iron golem has wandered into my tree farm and a spruce tree has grown on top of him. Yeah, he wandered out of there in the end. A couple of people did point out, by the way, that a correction from the last episode, iron golems on Java Edition do not lower your reputation with the village and trade prices if you kill them. So you can potentially get some more iron that way, but I am okay with doing a little bit of caving right now just so we can get hold of our first iron. We should just be able to hop around a few of the surface caves in this area and find ourselves an easy bit of iron that way, just like we did when we first started out. So I'm just going to hop down here. We're going to head back towards this collection of caves around the flower forest, and hopefully we should be able to spot a little bit of iron in there. I don't have any iron armor of my own yet, so I am having to block with a shield a whole bunch and make sure I don't get hit by these skeletons. Yep, there we go. Make sure you use the shield as much as you possibly can in situations like this, because one hit from a skeleton is going to do a decent amount of damage to you on hard difficulty. There is a bit of iron underneath there and a bit of copper nearby as well. I'm trying to lure the skeletons out into the sun so they start to take a bit of burning damage, and even though that one is... these guys are 360 no-scoping me at this point. Yep, now they're fighting each other. Okay, that's kind of what I wanted, really. Once you get them fighting each other, it's fairly easy to take out the stragglers, and you get a couple of bones out of the bargain for yourself as well. The key to regenerating health is, of course, to make sure you eat regularly, so I've made sure to top up my health so that I can get a quick bit of health regen, and we're going to explore this cave in here. I'm going to leave most of the resources for now and just focus on iron, because when we come back with Fortune 3, we'll actually be able to get a little bit more of this. But for now, we're wading in here, and this is something I didn't explain about the 1.17 update in the last episode, but for those of you who haven't been keeping track of the update's development, iron, copper, and gold now drop these raw items, basically the same way that redstone, coal, diamond, and all of the other ores in the game did, meaning that they are affected by fortune now. You still need to smelt the resulting raw items to get hold of ingots, but you don't get the full block of iron or whatever material it would happen to be, unless you are using Silk Touch to gather the ore block. The ores also look slightly different thanks to a change in texture that is mainly designed to help accessibility so that you can recognize the different shapes of ores from a distance if you're colorblind. And honestly, I quite like the new ore textures. I think they go a bit better with the current art style of Minecraft, and the old ores all looking the same feels a little bit bland by comparison now. So this little cave formation had a little bit of iron, but iron only generates below sea level, so below the level of this river, meaning that we can't explore further up into the mountains for any iron. We will have to go down into some more caves. Looks like there are a couple of caves opposite here on the riverbank, and there's a creeper down there, so we're going to ignore that one for now. I don't really want to tangle with creepers if I can help it, and I am running low on torches, so might need to snag just a little bit of coal here and there if I can. One other thing to note, though, is that while we stay in the proximity of the village, it's a very good idea to not go caving too close by, because of course there's a chance for zombies to spawn around the perimeter during the night, and if villagers are loaded and the zombies can pathfind towards them, then that means the villagers have the potential to be zombified, and then they can die by burning up in the sun. Since they're on hard, they're going to convert to zombie villagers 100% of the time, but I really don't want to risk that happening at all, so I'm going to go over here and sleep real fast, and then we're going to cave in the opposite direction. We're going to continue smelting the iron we've already gathered, so that makes, I think, a total of 10 ingots so far. We don't have any left over in here except a couple that we can maybe craft out of iron nuggets. There we go. Just going to quickly grab another axe from the toolsmith because mine is starting to wear out a little bit. We're actually going to swap to that one, and then we can combine them later for a little bit of extra durability. And let's see if there's another quick cave we can do around here. I know we saw that one in the center of the village, but I have a feeling I want to leave that one alone. It looks a little too dark in there. We found a pretty decent sized cave, so I'm getting into a little bit of ranged combat here because it looks like to me this cave should have the rest of the iron we need in us. If only these bats would stop taking bullets for the nearby skeletons, we might actually make some progress down here. Alright, gonna light up a couple of the darker areas here, but this looks relatively safe right now. We've got the surface directly above us. We have a couple more mobs around the corner here, but they are mostly inactive right now. So I'm going to press the advantage, take a little bit of this iron, and I'll meet you back on the surface where we can craft an anvil. With the last of our iron coming out of the furnace, we have half a stack, which is enough, I believe, for 3 iron blocks and the stem of the anvil with 1 ingot left over. So I am going to put an anvil out here by the blacksmith's grindstone, and with that, I do think we're going to turn these 3 diamonds into a pickaxe after all. I was thinking maybe we save them for an enchanting setup, but hey, without any kind of high durability tool, fortune isn't going to last very long on these iron pickaxes. I kind of want a diamond pickaxe. So there we go. We have a diamond pickaxe now. We're on day 8, and we should be able to enchant this with fortune using that anvil and the Fortune 3 book. There we go. Going to cost us 6 levels for that one, and we could always re-enchant it with mending if we get hold of a mending book from another villager. We could stick around and go for that. But I want to show you the effects fortune is going to have on our next caving expeditions, because now we should be able to use fortune not just on coal and diamond and everything else we're going to find, but on iron and copper and gold as well. So we're going to go back to the cave I was in earlier, fight a few more skeletons, and start fortuning everything, including the coal here, so that we can make a ton of torches. And in the cave a little bit further down, I saw our first copper, and we're going to be able to fortune 3 that copper right away. So copper is the latest addition to Minecraft in Minecraft 1.17, and at the moment it has 3 different uses: blocks, lightning rods, and the spyglass. We can make blocks and lightning rods with just a little bit of copper. Unfortunately, the spyglass is going to require us to find amethyst, which is another new material in 1.17. We will get to that a little bit later if we're lucky, but for now we've got hold of 58 raw copper from just a few blocks there. Even without fortune, copper will naturally drop 2 or 3 raw copper per block, but fortune just ramps it up a little bit extra, and I think I'm getting maybe 7 or 8 from some of those blocks with fortune 3 active. So I think it's really worth the investment, considering that like the other resource blocks, blocks of iron and so forth, you need a 3x3 of copper to make a single block of the stuff, meaning we're going to have to acquire quite a lot of it anyway. Sorry, just had to run back to the village there and make sure it didn't get too late. Around the corner here, I think we're actually running into the... Oh, okay, there's a witch down there. We're not tangling with witches. Not right now, not with the amount of armor I have, which is absolutely none. Witches are one of the more dangerous enemies you can encounter in hardcore mode, as you might imagine if you've ever tangled with one in Minecraft before, because they can splash you with potions that deal poison damage, and that can get you down to half a heart of damage, where a skeleton arrow or anything like that can easily finish you off. We don't want to mess with witches if we can possibly avoid it. So I'll just pick another cave nearby, since all of the other mobs seem to have spawned in that one. Let's see if we get any more iron from these caves down here. We can even smelt it as we go using a furnace, and that way we should be able to armor up a little bit whilst we're down here. Okay, here's a really great example. Previously, from these iron ore blocks, we were getting 1 item per ore block. We were getting 1 raw iron per ore block. Now, when I break that, we just got hold of 2 from that one. Let's see how many we get from this one. That's just 1. Okay, fortune isn't always 100%. And 7. Okay, so we got 4 from that last block. Iron is now basically fortunable in the same way that diamonds were in previous updates, where, of course, 1 diamond comes out of a block if you don't mine it with fortune, but you have a potential of getting up to 4, which means we can go through iron blocks like this and get hold of a ton of iron really quickly. Now, in my opinion, it's still going to be worth it to build an iron farm, and we are going to do that a little bit later in this series, because iron is such a useful resource. You use it for a ton of stuff in late game, like automation kind of relies on iron production for hoppers and that kind of stuff. And of course, an iron farm means renewable iron, where blocks of iron ore are going to be finite, and you'll have to go further and further out in the world to find them. And we got 17 raw iron so far, so I'm going to head back to the blacksmith, smelt up a little bit more of this, and start making my first suit of iron armor. There we go, that's our first bits of iron armor sorted out. Leggings and a chest plate looking very nice. The copper is still merrily smelting away in the furnace. We might get a blast furnace on the go for that relatively soon, but I'm going to tuck the rest of this iron away in our blacksmith's chest here. We got a little bit of precious resources building up in here, and I'll briefly make a copper block to show you what that looks like. Once again, a 3x3 crafting recipe, a full resource block of copper. It can be broken back down into the ingots if you need it, but this stuff is really quite cool. It will age over time. Once we leave this in the world, it's going to start to age and develop a patina. It's going to turn from regular copper into oxidized copper and weathered copper. I think there is a middle stage which is called exposed copper. Anyway, now we've got hold of a little bit of armor, I think it is time to go caving. And once again, I'll repeat the advice I gave earlier. We are going to go caving far away from this village, because I don't want these villagers to be lost to zombies, and I want to spend a bit more time delving deeper into these caves, especially since we have Fortune 3, and our goal for today is to make a full enchanting setup. We're going to need some diamonds, and for that we're going to venture further out into the world. You know what? I think I might go back this way. I think we might go back towards the other half of the plains biome where we spotted this village from in the first place. That should be far enough away. You want to be 128 blocks away from anywhere you're going to be underneath the village, so I have a feeling that if we get back to the plains biome over here, we'll probably be far enough away. away. Yep, I can't see the village on the horizon anymore, so that means we should be far enough away that mobs will not spawn. I think my chunk render distance is up to about 16, so we're going to be stripping out the terrain here, finding caves, and just going after every single block of resources we can come across at this point, because now we should be able to get the maximum yield for each of these blocks, and I'll be able to come home with a huge amount of iron. I'm also going to be on the lookout for copper. We're not going to gather too much of this right now. I expect we'll be able to do longer sessions of mining for copper in future, and I'm mostly going to be looking for places that I can dig further down into the world, get hold of some diamonds and some lapis for enchanting, maybe grab our first mined out redstone dust as well. So this looks like a great cave entrance to get started with. It's going down into the earth, and it should be going down for a good while yet. Now, I am going to point out that this is 1.17 and not 1.18. For people who got interested in the Caves and Cliffs update from its initial announcement but haven't been keeping up with the news, you might want to know that the Caves and Cliffs update has been split into 2 parts. This is part 1, which has added a bunch of the blocks and mobs to the game, but hasn't included any of the lower in the world cave generations. So caves are still going to appear much the same as they have done in previous updates if you've played those. You won't end up finding caves below Y0 or mountains that are the other thing that's getting added with the increased height limit. That is not going to be the case in this update. In fact, we're going to be waiting until winter of this year when hopefully part 2 of the Caves and Cliffs update should be released. And I've talked about this elsewhere. I do a podcast every week where we talk about Minecraft news and everything, so I've shared my thoughts on this plenty. I think it's a good idea for the team. They've been under a lot of stress with the pandemic and everything, and they wanted to make sure the update was as good as possible. That's good enough for me, personally. In the meantime, we have an awesome first part of the update to play around with, and I cannot wait to do a little bit more stuff in 1.17. We're going to make a new crafting table, because I left my other one back in the village, and we're actually going to smelt a little bit more iron, but the rest of the iron that we don't want to smelt up, because we won't need it for armor and stuff down here, I'm going to convert into blocks of raw iron. These are basically compact resource block versions of the raw iron materials. You can do the same with copper. With each of those being a 9x9 of raw copper, we've got 90 raw copper, but it just condenses down into a single block. And that's actually a really good way of telling how many full blocks of copper, once it's been smelted, you'll end up coming away with. And right now that's only 10 blocks, which doesn't feel like a whole lot, but we've got lots more mining to do. You can't smelt these blocks in a furnace to turn them directly into the blocks of iron, though. That would kind of break the fuel economy of the game, so it's just going to be a matter of smelting down the raw items themselves. Now we've got a full suit of iron armor. Once again, feeling a lot happier about that now. We'll take these crafting stations with us and venture further down into the caves. We've just picked up some glow ink, so it looks like a glow squid may have spawned here in this water source and then fallen out onto here and unfortunately died. And is that... That's a lava source. Okay, I was wondering if that was going to be the edge of a dungeon, but no, it is a lava source creating cobblestone there. So our first brush with the glow squid was unfortunately just the ink, the remains of a glow squid. But we're going to be using glow ink for a bit of stuff later as well. It's going to be really fun to play around with. For now, I'm just going to take this water source using the water bucket I already had, and yep, looks like we had plenty of glow ink around here. Thankfully, we've got 4 of those now without even having to kill a glow squid ourselves. This cave branches out in a bunch of different ways, and while I give this zombie villager the run around, we can observe that we are actually in a little cluster of dripstone. So dripstone caves themselves, like the full cave environments, aren't in the game yet, but you can find little clusters of pointed dripstone and dripstone blocks around here, and I believe stonemasons are also trading the dripstone blocks if you want them. So we can use these for a bunch of really cool stuff later, but you've got to avoid that stuff falling on your head. So that was a pretty risky move. I forgot that we were going to have to worry about that. You can see it dripping particles of water though, which is always really cool to see. I'm just going to take care of the rest of this just in case, because if there's a water source above it, it can form more of that dripstone stalactite, and I have a feeling that's going to end up dropping on us at some point in this series if we're not careful. Oh, there's an axolotl down here as well. Axolotls, like the glow squid, are going to be spawning in water sources underground, so you might see a few of them in these dark spaces, and at the risk of potentially jeopardizing my bucket of water, I kind of want to catch this little guy and put him in a bucket. Can I do that? Yes, there we go. We have an axolotl in a bucket now. Incredible. All right, well, we're going to tuck him up here with the iron. I'll actually smelt a little bit more iron so we can have a regular water bucket, but we got our own axolotl. We can take him home. What should we name him? Names in the comments section, please. And once again, we have a little bit of glow ink. So the glow squid remains elusive, but glow ink remains plentiful. We're going to try and go a little bit further down into here and definitely start lighting this place up a little bit more. You may also notice occasionally patches of stone that look like this. This is actually glow lichen. If we had some shears on us, we could collect some of this, but I expect a lot of people are going to think that I'm passing by diamonds because it's just a flash of that kind of greenish blue color in the caverns. Please don't be alarmed, that is just glow lichen. Now we got close down to the bottom of this cave. There is lava over here, which I'm going to block off, although it shouldn't present a problem for us right now. I am hearing lava a little bit further down here, though. The lava is sort of all around us at this stage, and we are close to the Y11 level, where we are still going to be finding the most diamonds generating. So I'm thinking what we should do is dig down until we get to Y11 and try and seek out this lava source just in case it is a cave. Yep, sounded like it was coming from this direction, and right there we actually see our first hints at some of the other new materials. We have some tuff right here, which used to be surroundings of geodes, but no longer is. It just generates in patches down here at the bottom of the world. And we also have some deep slate, which looks like it's going to be a really cool building material to work with. What is with all the zombie villagers down here today? Hello? Let's grab the redstone ore from over here in the walls, and lovely to have a little bit of redstone dust to play with a little later. While I think about it, we're going to place down a bucket of water and grab a couple more blocks of obsidian from this lava lake. We could grab enough for a nether portal, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to use a different method to get to the nether anyway. There we go, and I've got 2 blocks of obsidian back in the blacksmith's chest, so we should now have enough to build our enchanting setup as long as I can find 3 diamonds while we're down here. We might as well dig through a little bit of the tuff here and try and find a few more resources. I'll absolutely take some more redstone ore, and the tuff is only a decorative block for now, but we can potentially use it for some building a little later. As we mine our way through the tuff and deep slate down here in the lower regions of the world, you'll find these all generate from Y16 and below, sort of the area you start to find a redstone and diamond. You will also find there are now deep slate variants of these ore blocks, a lot of which are going to appear in the lower regions of the world in our next update in Minecraft 1.18. However, there are some that will not generate that low down, like deep slate copper. So this is actually a really rare find, and I'm probably going to end up silk touching a bunch of these types of blocks instead of fortuning them, just because some of them are not going to be viable to find in 1.18. So after this update, we will not see their like again unless you're playing around in creative mode or they decide to change world generation from what they've initially discussed. For now, of course, I'm mostly in it for the resources, so I don't mind grabbing a few of those, and we'll end up finding a whole bunch more of that in future, I am sure. But for now, I kind of want to do a bit more caving to find diamonds. It's always more fun finding diamonds in a cave than in a branch mine, so let's go and explore a few more caves. Well, this down here looks a little bit dangerous, but it's actually shown us a couple more of the resources I really want right now. Let's quickly check behind here in case a witch is getting ready to poison me from inside of here. Nope, looks like we're okay. I'm looking at gold ore. The brand new look of gold ore is over here, so we're going to grab some of that because once again, this is something we can fortune. So individual raw gold pieces are going to be coming out of these ore blocks, and now we can get more than 1 gold ingot per ore block, which is fantastic if you found a mesa or somewhere that you can farm a little bit more gold from. We've also got some lapis down here, and the lapis ore has not changed much. The texture is a little bit different just to make it slightly more visible against the deep slate variant, but for now it is relatively unchanged, and we can use some lapis for our enchanting setup, so it's good that we found some of that. And look at this in the wall. Oh, that's... okay, 2 very exciting things have just happened right here. First of all, we have what may end up being an 8 vein of diamond ore. Yes, it looks like it is. Oh, wonderful. Okay, and not a single deep slate diamond ore, sad to say, so we don't get to see that today. But we're going to fortune all of these. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to throw that out there for the thumbnail. But just a few blocks over, we have a brand new block which heralds one of the new features of this update. Behind these smooth basalt blocks, we will find a layer of calcite, and behind a layer of calcite, we will find amethyst, because, folks, we have just stumbled upon a geode. Amethyst geodes will generate at all levels of the underground right now, and they contain a whole bunch of really cool blocks, which we are going to mess around with a lot in this series, I expect. But first of all, we got to do the important thing and harvest all of these diamonds. With Fortune 3, we came away with 23 diamonds. I think that's almost enough for a full suit of armor. And now I'm going to be chucking out the cobblestone, the diorite, the granite, the rotten flesh, all of the stuff that I find kind of useless, and I'm going to be grabbing grabbing as much of this as I care to carry, because the geode blocks are genuinely super cool. We're going to dig into this one, listen to those lovely chime sounds, and we're going to quickly light the place up, because while the crystals will give off their own natural light, we do need to take care that we're not going to stumble into a creeper in here, not least because I don't want to spoil all of these lovely blocks. But wow, folks, look at this. Crystals in Minecraft in their own kind of custom-built structure. There are a few important things to note about geodes before you go tearing them apart, though. These blocks with the kind of cross-shaped, the darker section in the middle of there, are budding amethyst blocks, and these work a lot like mob spawners in Minecraft. You cannot remove them from this location. You can't break them, even with Silk Touch, otherwise they will just shatter and you won't obtain an item. They can't be moved using pistons. Basically, they are rooted to this spot where they generate. And so if you want to farm amethyst crystals like this one here, which we can also fortune for a few extra amethyst shards, you need to make sure that the budding amethyst is farmed in this location. So kind of like a spawner, it's a structure that you have to come back to in order to get more crystals. And we will want more crystals because the crystals are useful for a couple of things. First of all, in a 2x2, they will make more of these wonderful amethyst blocks, but also they are used to make the spyglass, which is effectively a zoom feature in vanilla Minecraft. And we can show that off in a future episode. For now, I'm going to take the coordinates of this and probably head back up to the surface, return to the village, and get my enchanting setup figured out, because we've got the diamonds we need now, and my inventory is getting a little full. So I'll see you back on the surface, and let's make that enchanting setup happen. So with the sun just coming up on the horizon, we have made it back to the village, where I'm going to grab myself a book, 2 more obsidian from this blacksmith chest, and some of the diamonds that I brought with me, and we are going to make ourselves an enchanting setup. First though, let's unload all of the stuff we brought with us. We have a bunch of raw copper blocks. That's going to be at least 22 blocks of copper for us. It's not a whole lot, really, when you think about it. We've got 24 blocks of raw iron, though, and, you know, blocks of iron are something to be reckoned with. I've started converting the coal into storage blocks as well, so we got a decent amount of those. A stack and a half of redstone, that's pretty good as well. We can start smelting the raw gold. We got some diamond, amethyst and amethyst shards, and some of those fancy new blocks, which I'm sure we'll be seeing a whole lot more of in the near future. We'll tuck the glow squid ink and the pointed dripstone away in here as well. I'm so happy we got a good all-round look at some of the newer blocks in 1.17 from this video. But for now, let's track down where I put those books. Yep, there we go. We've got 4 of the obsidian, we've got 2 diamonds available for us, and we've got a book. Let's make an enchanting table. Awesome. Now all we need to do is trade up enough with librarians that we can get a few more bookshelves, and we'll have our enchanting setup ready to do level 30 before we even reach level 30 ourselves. While we're waiting for the Fletcher's trades to refresh, I'm going to give the blacksmith a bit of an upgrade. We're going to take his 2 furnaces here, where I've already smelted up a bit of smooth stone and some of the iron from our trip. We're going to turn those into blast furnaces. They're going to be able to process all of the stuff we've just brought back from our caving expedition twice as fast with the same amount of fuel, meaning we're just going to be able to burn through all of this copper and stuff nice and quickly, especially considering how much of it we actually have now. Well, folks, the day has arrived. We can now... Ooh, the Fletcher is asking for a little bit more in terms of stick trades now, but luckily I've been farming a whole lot of trees, so I have enough that I can feed him a few more sticks, and I don't think the trade is going to get higher than a stack per emerald. That should be enough for now. We've got 13 bookshelves already. 18 emeralds should be all we need to trade 2 more from the librarian, and... Where is the librarian gone, by the way? He's having trouble getting out of his house again, it looks like. Yeah, he's having issues with the door, issues with the ladder, all kinds of issues. But you, sir, can trade me 2 more of those. He has a Fire Protection 2 book now. Not exactly what I wanted, but we will cope. And now, over here, I think, behind the beehive for the moment, we're going to set up our level 30 enchanting setup. We just got to make some lovely shelves around the outside here. I think we'll do the usual horseshoe kind of shape. Yeah, we kind of need to fill in another bookshelf there just for the sake of neatness, but here we go. Yes, we got level 30 enchanting, all good to go. We brought some lapis back from our caving expedition, so once we need to enchant anything, then we can. But I'm thinking we need to do a bit more villager trading, which means getting those blacksmiths up to scratch. And maybe we'll end up doing something with this, because the copper block that I put out here has now aged 2 stages, which means it is now looking like, what is this called? Weathered copper. Yes, there we go. So we now have weathered copper, and potentially we can do more stuff with the other types of copper if we have the opportunity to farm it. We're also at level 30 now, thanks to all of the villager trading, which means enchantment is not too far away. But that is where we're going to wrap up for this episode of the Hardcore Survival Guide. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Once again, the lesson for this one, get Fortune 3 before you go caving in 117, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on the episode if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.